welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing really great, Nicole, and always fun to chat with you. And I'm really glad that we have you on the show. I think our viewers would love to learn from your experience shares. So thank you for coming again. Um, for for those tuning in, Nicole, who may not be familiar with you, could you please introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do, what your background is?
Yes, absolutely. I would be happy to. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Rocchio. And to give you a bit of my background and what my role is, I suppose I'll start from where I'm at now and I'll work my way backwards. So currently, I sit on the News Consumer Insights team within the Global News Initiative. So we essentially have created a tool called News Consumer Insights, and we lead a global program in connection with that tool. So I've been in this role now for the last couple of years, and I had another role previously at Google, and that was a part of a different customer-facing org. So I believe that's probably bringing me to about 5 years at Google now. Before that, I worked at GE Healthcare. So I started in their commercial leadership program and ended up in a service manager role. So, interestingly enough, though, I studied, if we're going all the way back to university, I studied human health and development, as well as psychology. And I did do a lot of research, though, while I was there. So I worked with the dean of my college a little bit on part of my thesis. Anyway, that is my background, and that's where I'm at today. So yeah, excited to keep going into the conver.
That's excellent, Nicole. And I feel for as researchers, having a psychology background is so fantastic. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of clients, a lot of researchers that have very strong backgrounds or are very strongly rooted in psych and in uh, behavioral health and uh, I think it just adds a new dimension to how they view insights versus some of us that are not trained like you are.
It's interesting that you say this because I went into this role and I'm realizing that I actually use quite a bit of my background, not only, of course, in research, but the part of psychology where we study the behavioral interactions with the tools that we create, but then also, the customer journeys and how people move through point A to point B. A lot of our work also kind of touches on some user experience. And there is a lot of psychology behind it when you understand the user. So, anyway, it's really interesting to bring the research and the psychology to parts of my day to day job. I don't think that I had originally envisioned that to help me excel, but it's definitely been nice to have. That's for sure.
That's great, Nicole. And you said the buzzwords for me, customer journey, consumer journey, and
Yes.
I want to dive deeper into those. But before I do that, Nicole, um, I wanted to ask you, in your current role, what does your leadership rely on you for, or what do they expect from you, um, you know, on a day-to-day basis?
Yes. The leadership, essentially what they are looking for, and we can look at this from a couple different ways, but essentially the creation of our team was to aid the publishing ecosystem or the news publishing ecosystem in particular. And my team works on creating a tool to uncover insights or help publishers uncover insights and better understand their customer journeys from point A to point B. And we don't do this only in one area. We work on focusing globally. And so I think that that is really important for our team. We have a vision to look at everything from a global perspective and bring a lot of scale to that. And so right now what we're focused on is this tool creation and that customer insight to bring to our publishers.
Now, that's great, Nicole. So let me ask you this. I love the global perspective that you have, and obviously this is a global undertaking on your end. In terms of guiding and helping your internal teams in achieving, these global mandates, what are some of the challenges that you typically see your teams face, and how do you help them?
That's yes. So I think that, in addressing the intricacies of the challenges, essentially, of customer experience, one will inevitably confront almost, you could say, the multi-dimensional nature of this customer journey that we're aiming towards. And so to explain how we kind of move through some of these challenges, I can explain a framework that we use, which
Sure, sure.
encompasses a few pivotal aspects. And I think the ending I'll be able to tie back into this to make some sense. So essentially we start with the diagnosis of the issue at hand. If we're taking like a big step back to look at the lens of this. And so before we can craft a solution and then even understand the challenges, we have to deeply understand almost the nature and magnitude of the challenge at hand. And so then we think about clarification of objectives that we're looking at. So to have a clear grasp on, what the end game looks like for us, what exactly are we striving to achieve in terms of customer satisfaction and business outcomes. And then the last piece that I think will kind of tie us back in is distilling true customer desires, because I think that that's one of our biggest challenges. And so in order to move through that, while direct feedback mechanisms such as, we'll use analytics, we will use interviews, we'll use surveys, which provide us, a window into that customer preference. The real art, I would say, almost lies in reading between the lines. So I think that more often than not, our in-depth research shows us patterns or nuances that even the customer might not be consciously aware of or articulating. So these insights aren't supplemental, they're more so foundational in reshaping their experience. And so I think that essentially being able to understand that the true customer desire and also showing them areas in which they might not fully be aware of based off of research that we're conducting. It's being able to move through those challenges to make sure that we have the correct, end game, as I said earlier, for what we're creating in general. So I think having a really good understanding of that landscape is actually what helps us move through a lot of the challenges that we face to ensure that we're approaching our problem correctly.
That's a wonderful experience shared, Nicole. I wanted to double click on something that you said that I think is really important for our viewers. You talked about spending time in understanding the what, the why, the end game, and what is it that we're trying to achieve. I think that is splendid. And the reason I say that is often I see a lot of researchers really jump very quickly into the how. We get presented with a challenge, a business situation, and we are almost trained to go very quickly into, okay, how are we going to do this? What is the new shiny tool we'll deploy?
Yeah.
Right? And that's all good. Our stakeholders expect us to be the experts that we are, but I think understanding the what and the why is so critical. And like you said, understanding the end goal, um, you know, and the reason that is so important is um, a lot of times, and this has just been my experience over the last couple of decades,
Mhm.
when clients come to us with a what and why that is loosely defined, then the real what and the real why is sometimes, hidden 3 or 4 degrees beneath their initial questions. And that's why uncovering those layers, really getting to what is it that we're trying to do, and if we do it, what is it that we hope to achieve? How will this move the needle, for the organization at the end?
Yes.
We define, you mentioned the word impact, and I think that is so pertinent as well, because designing research for impact, for specific business impact, is so critical. Otherwise, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I've seen a lot of researchers struggle with, we do all this work and we have all this data, and then it's that classic stage of analysis paralysis where every data point looks good, it looks interesting, but then the leadership is challenging them on, okay, so what do we do next? What,
Yes.
how is this moving the needle? And
Yes.
I don't know, have you ever experienced that?
Yes. No, I mean, for all of the listeners, you cannot see I'm smiling largely, but it is because you are speaking the language that I so deeply understand. It would be so silly of me to say that we haven't run into similar problems. Of course, I think that's one aspect of research that almost feels inevitable. Um, Interestingly enough, this was something that, our team discussed and is almost a foundation for the tool that we ended up creating. When we were speaking with a lot of, our consumers, let's say, so much of what we heard was we have so much data, we don't know what to do with it. And knowing that we also have felt that very similar pain, it sparked an idea for this creation of the tool and this program that we have launched globally. But essentially, and what we say to better explain this is there's almost like a small storyline that we talk about. And so, a lot of people have access to data. Everyone has so much data, almost so much so, as you said, that there is the paralysis of all of the data. And it's incredibly overwhelming. You almost look at it and you're just like, oh, I don't even know what to do with all of this. And then a lot of people sometimes then do nothing with it, which is it pains me even more to say. And then I think when you understand that you have that data, you then take a smaller pool of those individuals and they will have insights from that data, which is one step further. Fantastic. We're headed down the right path. I think what we realized was there was one more step after that. Um, and it's even a smaller pool, but even fewer can easily take it one step further to actionable recommendations. And those actionable recommendations is directly connected to the impact that we're able to deliver. And that's really important. And I think that that is almost the stronghold of everything that we're trying to do. It's being able to provide impact through actionable recommendations.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, Nicole. And, to take it even a step further, for the benefit of our viewers, what I would like to add is, focus strongly on impact, like you said.
Mm,
In fact, our
yes.
guidance to clients, Nicole, is we define impact as having two components.
Mm,
One is, obviously the business impact that you're trying to achieve, but that
mhm,
should also further be distilled down to maybe financial numbers, if possible. Whatever the end goal is, if the end goal of the project is, let's say you're doing a customer journey project or any research project, well,
mhm,
that's an investment, right? So what is it that we're trying to do? Are we trying to improve satisfaction? Are we trying to improve revenue? Are we trying to reduce costs? What is the end goal, right? And if the end goal is, let's say, increase revenue, well, then let's have a defined goal on how much would help us. What is it that we're looking for? A 10% increase, a 20% increase? It has to be distilled down to that level where either there's a financial number that we're targeting, or when it comes to satisfaction, how much do we want to increase the satisfaction by? 10 points, 20 points, 30 points? Whatever that is, it needs to be done to that level of clarity. And then, a lot of times, clients tell us, well, I don't want to have targets on my back if we don't achieve it, right? And our guidance over there is, don't look at that as targets on your back. Look at that as that if you're making an X amount of investment in the research project, then you should be able to justify to your leadership, what the ROI is. The comment that I make to clients is, don't worry about having targets painted on your back because of this project. The target is already there on you. When you go ask leadership for that investment in the project, the target is already on your back.
Yeah.
You- Now what I'm talking about is, how do you make sure that you come out successfully out of that? And so having that clearly defined business financial impact is critical, because it also, and the reason why we are strong, fierce advocates of having that impact clearly defined up front is, it impresses your leadership, because researchers normally don't think of it, right? So they're not expecting you to have that conversation with them about it early on. But the more critical component is, when we set out to design a project that has a clearly defined business/financial impact to it, then every question that you want to ask or include in that project is looked at or vetted through the lens of, does it help us achieve that goal? If it does not, it's a nice to know component. Let's just put it on the back burner for now. So the whole project gets designed for that. And the second thing that we like to guide clients on, Nicole, is also talk about the personal impact on your stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
How does the project success help your internal stakeholders? Does it make their life easier in some way? If it does, what is that? How does it do it? How are they going to be using the research? More importantly, the question I guide our clients to ask internally is to ask their stakeholders on, let's pretend this project's a big success. How does that change your life? Does it change your life in any way? And I'll give you a great example. I just had a conversation with a client that hired us to do some journey work.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them this question, and they paused and they said, I really appreciate that you're asking me this question, because my job depends on this. I was brought in to make this change in my organization. And this project is so critical to not just the organization's success. I will be measured on how successful this project is. So what happens is, when you ask those types of questions internally with your stakeholders, the magic that unfolds is, people become loyalists. They buy into the research. They get it that this is being done to not only help the business, but to help them personally. And so, sometimes clients tell me, we do all this work, and then people come back and say, oh, you didn't really tell me anything new. Or we do this work and no one acts on it. It just becomes another pretty report that sits on someone's desk. And so by doing it this way, by designing for impact the way we've been talking about, it really converts those naysayers into buying into it. Or what might also happen is, as you go down that discussion path and guiding path with your internal clients, what you may end up realizing, and your internal stakeholders may also realize, this really doesn't move the needle in any way. This doesn't, have some business impact or personal impact. And then you may guide them to move away from that project. I know you have a lot of comments, so I'm going to pause, but you just triggered me when you made your last comment. So I had to,
No,
share
please.
my experiences.
I really appreciate that. Yes, you've said a lot of things that were incredible nuggets of information. To start, you discussed having almost being able to conceptualize what your targets are or what your impact will be and how you're measuring that. And what I really liked is that you are having conversations with your clients saying that they should decide how they want to measure something and what does success look like to them. The reason I think that this is so key, and we have with so many publishers that we're having conversations with, when you decide to ask the harder questions, it opens up, as you were calling it, almost the magic of uncovering what they're really looking for. And in that journey, you can also decide whether or not what your original plan was will actually have the impact that you were looking for, and whether or not it's even worth your time to continue down that path. I think it is so imperative to almost start with what you're hoping to end up with and then work your way back, almost like a reverse engineering sort of way of approaching the problem. If you have a really clear understanding of what success looks like, it's almost easier, at least in my mind, to then build those parts to achieve success at the end. And I do think that there are a lot of conversations where we're sometimes avoiding the harder questions because it can bring uncomfortability at times when we don't always know the answers, but that means that those are the questions worth asking. And so we do try to do that so much in our work to better understand then how to bring that impact that we're trying to achieve and then build the customer journey from that and the customer experience, et cetera, and all of that. So yes, I couldn't agree more with that. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. You're very welcome, Nicole. And, for our viewers, what I will also add is, if you ask these hard questions up front, what it also does is, and this is very subtle, but it's very strategic, it also places you in the minds of your internal stakeholders as a guide versus just being an order taker. And if you are positioned as a guide and, the internal, you know, uh, research guiding light, then they turn to you more. And they turn to you more with confidence versus just coming to you with complaints on this was not actionable or I couldn't use it. So we've seen magic happen. And so that's why I really wanted to underline that. Um, so,
Yes, no, I couldn't agree. Couldn't agree more.
so from your perspective, we were talking about customer journeys.
Mhm.
Uh, Can you please talk about, for the benefit of our viewers, what is your approach when it comes to customer journeys? If you can talk about anything that you've done in helping, your organization better understand the customer's journey, uh, what triggered the need for it, how you went about it, what was the impact for your organization?
Yes, I would love to share. So there has been two projects, more recently speaking, that come to mind when I'm thinking of them. Um, I'll describe what I did in a loose way for both of them because I do feel that overall this is how I approach customer journey with the projects that I work on. So the customer journey it's really the buzzword for today, really took center stage, given the fact that not and what is so important is that understanding that customer journeys, although I would love to have a simple plan of steps 1, 2, and 3 that would apply for absolutely everything, customer journeys are definitely not a linear progression in a way. Let's say you have to kind of figure out, you have to do this also with some flexibility. So, or like being able to iterate on the more loosely held way you move through creating this. So essentially, the way that I think about this is, one, I typically have to engage with our key stakeholders. So we initiate, of course, dialogue with publishers in particular for both of these projects, primary segment of our target audience. And that is really important because it wasn't just about surface level conversations. It's a more strategic approach to fully understand their core needs, their potential pain points, and unmet market demands. So, where can we fit in there? And then we have almost a synthesis of our findings. So, based off of the information gathered, we create a vision for our project outcome. And then we essentially crystallize that specific, maybe niche, where the tool or program or project will not only fit, but really excel. And then to bring up again what I had mentioned a little bit earlier about the whole maybe like reverse engineering is with a well-defined end goal, our approach will then somewhat pivot. So we do that reverse engineering model where instead of, the traditional linear progression, we'll work backwards from that desired outcome. And then last but not least, we're always identifying the market opportunities as well. So through the exploration, it became clear where the market void somewhat existed for both of these projects. Almost so clear that it was painful not to continue on that project. And that to me is like almost a nugget that of information for me that I want to make sure our team feels before deciding to move forward on a project. So it's not only identifying the opportunity, but being able to pinpoint a specific area where that solution will really make a proper impact. And I can answer more in depth, but that's kind of our general framework, being that the most important piece is feeling that it's so loud that there is not something that already fills this void that we have to fill it, or at least try and help fill it, let's say.
That's a great experience share, Nicole, and thank you for talking about it. Um, I heard a lot of wisdom and a lot of gold in that I want to just highlight for our viewers. You talked about really looking at this as more of a cyclical process versus a linear process. And that is true often for most customer journeys. It also ties into the core philosophy in understanding a customer's journey, which is, often organizations misunderstand these types of journeys to be linear. And also, sometimes the mindset that we have to guide is that the customer is not part of the organization's journey, but it's the other way around. And that's where the cyclical portions also come in, because the way we look at customer journeys is similar to yours, which is that these are different stages or different mini journeys that are connected to each other. And that's why I feel the cyclical part in getting that is so important, because if you don't take care of the customer and their pain points in one stage of the journey, then what happens is you are causing pain points to appear in a certain portion. Mm-hmm. And given the cyclical nature of these journeys, any pain points that are not addressed are only opportunities for your competitors to come in or for the customer to abandon you in that stage of the journey and move forward with a competitor. And so that's why, looking at them cyclically is so key. Another part that I wanted to just double click on is how these journeys come about to be cyclical. So our approach is to look at them as smaller journeys that, have their own key moments that are going on. And each journey stage connects to the next stage through these key moments, or what we call as moments of truth. And if those moments of truth are not addressed and they become pain points, then the customer's journey does not break. What breaks is their connection with you. And that's why, I thought looking at them cyclically is so key.
Yes. I think that it, in tandem with looking at it cyclically, I think that a lot of customers want to know that you are listening to them specifically, and that there is not a copy and paste version of everything that you're doing with each customer. Of course, in order for us to be efficient and effective at the same time, we have to start with a general framework. But making sure also that you are listening to your customers' pain points to understand how they differ from the next customer, that's what will help you be successful. Knowing that it's not going to be the same cut and dry approach with every single customer. And especially that they are not linear. although it would probably be much easier if we could just say that they were linear and, follow the very simple framework. But all customers are different, and they want to know that you're treating them differently too, or at least that you're really listening to them and their needs.
That's absolutely true, Nicole. And you said something else also that's really important in terms of understanding these pain points. Yes, it's important to know what they want. Another piece of guidance that I'd like to share with our viewers is when you encounter or uncover these pain points and you understand what the pain point is, what are the customers expecting, what we also like to do is ask customers, okay, so you're getting this pain point in this stage. If this pain point is not addressed, what action are you going to take? Right? And now I'm going to tie this in with that initial discussion we had about impact. So let's pretend that the whole focus of the journey is to increase sales. Okay. And you're uncovering these pain points. And so we're asking customers, okay, so you're getting this pain point here. What do you do? And the customer might say, well, if I don't get what I need and this pain point continues to exist, I will go with a competitor at this stage. Well, then our next question is, okay, so how much will you spend with the competitor? And how much were you planning to spend with us? And the reason why we ask these questions is now, if the goal of the study is to increase satisfaction, then the questions can be customized to, okay, so if this pain point is not addressed, what do you do? And how much does this affect your, satisfaction with the company or with us, right? But what I'm driving towards is we tend to get these key data points out from the customer on what they'll spend or how it impacts their satisfaction. Then now imagine you've uncovered not just the pain points across all stages of the customer's journey, but you also know what will happen if those pain points are not addressed from, let's say, a financial standpoint, right? A customer may say, well, I was planning to spend X with you all, but because I'm encountering this pain point, I don't like it. I'm going to go with a competitor and I will go spend X with them, or I will reduce my spend with your organization by X. Now we've tabulated all of these pain points. We know what the impact is on the business. And then we go back and we tally all of them up across the board, right? So now when we're presenting insights to our leadership, we're telling them the customer's journey. We're telling them exactly where the pain points are, what customers are expecting from us, what they are not getting, and what is the impact of that pain point on the customer's decision with us, right? So what happens is when you start presenting metrics and insights to leadership in terms of these are the improvements we need to make. And if we do this, this is the increment we can see in the business from a revenue standpoint, right? Because now they won't spend X with our competitors, they'll continue to stay with us. Now, all of a sudden, what's happening is you're converting data into actionable insight. Because now, for the leadership or your internal stakeholders, they no longer have to parlay with you on, well, do we make this improvement? Do we not? Now you tell them, if you make this, this is the benefit. This is the return on this, fixing this pain point, right? It's no longer limited to, well, we should make it because 30% of our customers are saying X, right?
Right.
But now it's down to, if we do this, this is the impact we can see in our bottom line or in our satisfaction or whatever the end impact was, right?
Mm-hmm.
But imagine doing a study like this, where we've designed for impact, we're capturing all of the impact of the pain points and what corrective action needs to be made and what the impact will be if it's not made, as opposed to just presenting a study that says, well, I think we should do this because 20% said we should.
Yes, no, it's the way that you're framing it all is also reminding me of the what, the why, and the how. Although I loved the actionable recommendations tie-in. I think that this also can work in both ways, right? I think that having this laid out for leadership makes it a very clear and easy approach to at least see these are the tangible outcomes we would most likely have. So this is how we should move forward. You're kind of answering all of their questions before they ask them in a way. And I've also noticed that this approach works really well when you're sharing it with the team that is going to go out and help do the work as well. And so when you flip it and you're also able to say, hey, this is why we're going to be working on this type of project, or this is the entire journey from start to finish, and this is the impact we'll see, and this is what we're hoping to get from it. Being able to share that also with your team or the team that will be going out and doing a lot of that work or running the program or using the tool, et cetera, I find that that can also create a strong sense of empowerment within your team as well. It varies a little bit from our conversation of just, focusing on that journey and everything. But I think being able to not only have that conversation with your leadership, but then also the team it's really important. It makes sure that everybody exists on the same playing field, which is fundamental to success also, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Nicole. So that's great. So I know we're almost at the end of our time, Nicole, but I wanted to ask you one final question. If you had the opportunity to do another customer journey project, is there anything that you would do different?
Yes. I mean, I think that, you always, when you're completing your postmortems of all of your projects, you always look back and think about what could have been improved or what you can work on for the next project. I think that there is one question that comes to mind that helps me center the way that I think about improvement. And as we design our next project or think about designing our next project, one of the questions that I think is most important to ask yourself is, what are we not spending enough time thinking about? Is there something that we haven't addressed or that we're coming at from a lens in which, because we're slightly more of the experts in this field, it can sometimes almost create blind spots. And so I think that recognizing that and trying to take a step back and ensure that you're truly looking at the whole picture is really important and much easier said than done. So I would say that that is probably like the one nugget of information. Um, yes. Yeah. That I'll leave it there.
No, that's wonderful, Nicole. I think that is a great way to end this interview because I think it's really pertinent. So thank you again for coming on the show. I think
No,
we
thank
had
you.
a fantastic discussion, and I am very confident that our viewers will walk away with a lot of gold that they can apply in their business from this discussion. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for such an incredible conversation. It's always nice to have these and take away some more knowledge than you walked in with. So thank you so much for having me.